Welcome to the Blonde Runner podcast with Coach Lora Erickson, where she shares her healthy living tips as a running and triathlon coach and mother of 4.
Hi, it's Laura here, and I just wanted to talk to you and give you some tips for pool swimming today. We're going to talk about pool etiquette. We're going to talk about breathing a little bit. This is particular to adult triathlon swimming. First things first, you have to have the proper gear. Obviously, you need a pool. A lot of the local pools are great to utilize. Hopefully, you have a pool in your area. We're going to talk about particularly lap swimming today. So, before you get to the pool, some of the things that you need to know are you need to have an athletic swimsuit. Generally, for women, this is a one piece. I guess there are some 2 pieces, but mostly they're athletic swimsuits. More have kind of a back that goes in, so you have really good range of motion with your shoulders. So usually it's sort of a racer back looking back to it. It usually fits well. You feel very comfortable. That's something you want to look for. For men, you would want jammers. So not your baggy swim shorts, but more of a fitted bottom. Not that you couldn't swim in your baggy shorts, you can certainly start, but that creates a lot of drag. So if you're really doing lap swimming, you're trying to race or get better, even in the race, most likely you'll need, try shorts or jammers. So getting used to that is going to be a good thing. Other things that are good to have are cap. Now this is optional for men, because if you have short hair, it's not a big deal. You're not getting your long hair caught in your goggles. I think it protects your hair from breaking, ladies, to have a cap on. Now, the cap is not going to keep you from getting your hair wet. It's not for that. It's really to kind of keep the goggles from breaking your hair and that type of thing. Also can make you a little faster, probably nominally, but it's good to have. There are different techniques of getting that on. When it comes to caps, there's pretty much 2 kinds of caps. There's a latex and a silicone cap. Latex generally is a stickier. I guess that's how I would describe it. It's not like it's gummy sticky, but it tends to stay, at least for me, it stays on better. If you have a lot of hair, I suggest not using conditioner before you swim, or, certainly not right before you swim, but it'll kind of keep that cap on a little bit better. Pulling your hair up can help a lot with that too. And then with the goggles, what you were looking for is the proper fit. I suggest getting clear. And a lot of times you can get mirrored or smoke or colored goggles. I suggest getting a clear. I even use clear in the open water, and I'll do another video on open water, but this is particularly lap swimming. With the goggles, you'll want to make sure that they're the proper fit. And there's kind of a test you can do where you pretty much take the goggle piece where it's over your eyes and you push it onto your face. And if it stays for a few seconds and drops off, it's probably just right for you. If it doesn't even go on at all, it keeps popping off, obviously they're too big for you. If it suctions on and you feel like your eyeballs are going to pull out of your sockets, you probably have too small of goggles. So a lot of goggles, when you purchase them, they come with an extra nose piece. So you can change that and make it a little wider or more narrow depending on your face shape. A lot of times too, it depends on your ocular shape. So you might find different brands work better for you. I've even seen some people swim in it sort of looks like a scuba mask, but that is probably more rare, and they're definitely a little more clunky and bigger, so they're not quite as streamlined. So kind of something to think about. A lot of the competitive goggles have 2 straps. One is on the back of the head, one is on the top. That allows you to really position those goggles and they stay put, which is really effective for open water swimming. You want to keep them, you want to have them stay put. When you first start swimming, I wouldn't recommend, getting everything you need in addition to that. Like you could get fins or pool buoys or hand paddles. Those things can come later. Oftentimes, I know at the pool I go to, they do have some of those you can utilize on deck. They have some, you can just use them, but obviously you want to replace them once you've taken them and use them, put them back, and don't just leave them on deck. So on deck is obviously the deck, and of course the pool lap lanes. One thing that when you get there that you want to consider is also hygiene, your own hygiene. Making sure if you've ever swam with masters programs or anything, and you swim with other people, and you never know, you might be swimming with people. Even if you go by yourself, you might have to share a lane. We'll talk about that. But trim your toenails. If you've ever been kicked by somebody with long toenails at the pool, it's not fun. Make sure you trim your toenails. You have good hygiene. I highly suggest taking a shower also before you get in the water. This closes your pores and prevents for that chlorinated water from seeping too much into your skin. I think as a blonde, my skin is a little more sensitive maybe than others, but I like to do that. It keeps a little less, it seems my skin is a little less itchy that way. It also rinses you off. It keeps the pool cleaner for others, which is great. So obviously you shouldn't be swimming if you have an open wound of any sort. If you have any Band-Aids, maybe for a scratch or something little, take those off. Don't swim with them. They will come off in the pool. Use liquid bandage for something like that. If you're sick, don't go to the pool. Don't spread those kind of germs. If you're having any communicable diseases or anything, obviously don't swim. Wait till you're feeling better. Another thing you should know is there's no glass on deck. If you want to bring a water bottle or something, or a drink, make sure it's a plastic bottle. And of course, don't leave it there. But that's something you want. Other things, I would recommend walking around with flip-flops. You want to keep your feet safe, and you don't want to spread germs or get germs from pool floor, or the deck, or the bathroom floor. The next thing you should know, obviously a towel is good to have. I always have my bag packed ready to go. And then when it comes to taking care of your suit, basically it depends on, if you have a Lycra suit, they don't last quite as long as a polyester suit. I know at my gym they have a centrifuge or a spinner that kind of gets the water out of your suit, but I find that it gets kind of stretch spots on it, which I don't really like. So generally when it comes to caring for your suit, after I'm done swimming, I take a shower, wash it in the shower, and then I use shampoo that's for chlorination. It's for swimming. It takes the chlorine out, and so I'll use that on my suit. And then when I get home, I'll soak it in cold water, wring it out with my hands, and then I hang it to dry. I don't put it in the dryer. I don't wash it in the washing machine. I just hand wash. And if you do that, your suits will last a lot longer. And again, if you get a polyester suit, not just a polyester lined suit, but like a whole polyester suit, will last a lot longer. So that's just something to consider with swimming. If you're a triathlete, and we'll go into like training maybe a little bit on this at the end and how much you should be swimming. So we'll think about that. But okay, so you get there, you've got your suit, you're ready to get going. Obviously it helps if you learn a little bit of technique before you get to the pool. Maybe you're already well versed, but you're new to the area or new to that pool. Just some of the things, etiquette that you should know. And this is pretty standard. You don't want to just get there and jump in any lane. You want to look and see. A lot of pools have lanes designated for certain paces. So there's a slow lane, a medium, a fast lane. If they're not labeled, then it's probably, you can get in any lanes. I know at my pool, sometimes they have an area where they're doing water aerobics. Another spot, maybe some of the lanes are being used by a swim team. Usually they always have some lanes open for adult swimming anytime, or you need to check with the pool and see what are their lap swim times. So you're making sure you're getting there when you can actually use the pool. You don't just get in any lanes. You just need to be aware that there may be a slow or fast, or just look for those labels or signs. When you do choose a lane, I've been to a pool before that's extremely busy, and that sometimes people like to hog the lane and they're not as willing to share. However, if you ask, you could wait there forever, or you could see that there's only one person swimming in that lane and ask them if it'd be okay if you join them. And then you need to decide, are you going to circle swim or are you going to split the lane? If you split the lane, that means that one person is on one side and one person is on the other side of the lane, and they're swimming back and forth directly, straight. When you do circle swimming, it's usually counterclockwise. So you're swimming on the right, and then you're turning around, and you're swimming on the right again. And then you just do that circle swim. Depending on if you're with somebody that's a similar speed as you, circle swimming is probably a good choice, especially if you're in a lane that has more than 2 people. Sometimes that happens. It gets really busy, and you swim with 3 or 4 people. So think about that. You don't always have to just stand and wait. But it's important that you talk to the person. You don't, even if there's only one person in the lane, you need to talk to them. You don't just jump in or dive in. You never do that. You don't want to, startle them. You don't want to run into each other. You don't want to cause any damage. So do make sure, I usually wait till they get to the edge, and I'll try to tap them or catch them, maybe before they do a flip turn or something, and say, hey, is it okay if I join you? And then you decide, you want to split the lane, you want to circle swim. If you went with a friend, you might have to say, hey, we'd like to join you, and then discuss what you want to do there. Most people are pretty good about sharing. On occasion, you'll get somebody that is not as nice, but it's really important that you remember, you need to share. So, but a lot of it is just being polite. And if you happen to join and you're doing maybe circle swimming and you're slower, it's important that you understand the technique of passing, or if you're faster, of course, too. So the rules pretty much for passing in the lanes would be, let's say we're circle swimming. Let's say there's 3 people in the lane, so we're all going counterclockwise. We're at one right after the other. Maybe you find that the person in front of you is a little slower and you want to pass them. What you would do is tap their foot to let them know that you're wanting to pass them. Now, so if you are the one being tapped on the foot, then you know they're trying to pass you. So either you scooch all the way over to the right as close as you can to the lane line. You don't stop. You just keep swimming, right? You never want to stop in the middle of a lane unless you're having a hard time breathing or something's happening. But most of the time you want to keep swimming and stop at the end when you get to the side of the pool. If they're passing you, they're going to tap you, and then they're going to pass on your left, just like a cycling. I guess unless you're in the United Kingdom or Australia or somewhere else where where it's opposite as we are here in the United States. But you stay to the right, they should pass you on the left, and then you're fine. If you find that you're pretty close to the edge of the end of the lane, then if I were being tapped, I would slide over. I would get to the wall and I would move out of the way so that they could do their flip turn or push off the wall or whatever they're doing, and I'm out of their way. Just be, I guess, nice, and if they need to pass you, don't be too prideful, let them pass, let's keep everybody happy. So, so if you're being tapped on the foot, let's just let them pass you on the left and stay to the right. So you're rarely going to swim in the middle of the lane unless you've got the lane to yourself. And most lanes you can look to the bottom and there's a line, and you do want to swim straight. If you're swimming where you're splitting a lane with someone else, it's really important that you stay on one side, the right side. You don't want to swim in the middle and run into each other or catch each other's arms or hurt each other that way. So do make sure you understand how to pass and how to split the lane or how to circle swim. It does help if you go with other people. And, if you do go with other people, you understand those things. And generally, you are going to be swimming in a lane with somebody else. So understanding that's really good. One other thing, too, especially if it's really busy, and I've seen this before, a lot of people, when they swim, they may start chatting, and maybe they're chatting a lot and they're really not swimming anymore. If it's a very busy pool and you're done swimming, or even if you're not done swimming, you need to chat outside of the pool, or you need to be swimming when you're in the pool. So you decide, if it's not busy, maybe that's not a big deal. But if it is busy, certainly don't sit there and chat. Get out of the pool and go chat in the hot tub or something. Make sure you're being aware of other people around you and maybe what they need. And you're definitely, usually in the pool in a responsible way. The next thing is that other thing is suggesting that you obviously want to stay in your lane. However, if you notice that you're in a lane that seems to be faster or slower than you are, you can certainly move lanes. And it's just etiquette, like any other etiquette, is obviously making sure you're aware of the people that you're joining, know that you're joining, or certainly moving into a lane maybe that's not occupied at all, and that's a good thing to do. So, all right, so we talked about how to pass. We've talked about not jumping in, chat lanes, not stopping in the middle of the lane. And I will say, if you're a beginner, sometimes that does happen. One thing you need to consider is if you are a beginner swimmer and you're not sure if you can make it to the other side, you're just starting out. Obviously, learning technique helps, or getting swim lessons helps. I coach swim lessons, adult swim lessons. You can certainly contact me if you're in my area. But if you do think, hey, I'm not, very good, I'm just starting out, I might have to stop, then making those aware around you that maybe are in your lane, or if you're in your own lane, you don't need to make everyone aware you're a beginner, but get in the shallow end. There are lap lanes that are in deep end, and there's lap lanes, at least at my pool, that are in the shallow end where you can touch. Just be aware of that. That's something that you want to consider if you're a beginner, and you might have to stop. A lot of people, I think, are overwhelmed with swimming a little bit when they first start. So it is doable. Don't expect too much from yourself when you're very first starting, but learn. Don't be afraid to go on YouTube. You can learn everything from YouTube. I have found some really good clips that I like. One of them I have on my website. It's most common freestyle mistakes. And so I highly encourage you to go and check that out. You can go to my website at blonderunner.com and then check that out. It just kind of goes through some of the basics. So if you're very first getting started, there are some things that you need to consider. Well, let's go through that. We're going to go through some of that a little bit right now, just because one of the common questions I get, or one of the common problems I see, is people not knowing how to breathe. That's usually what I think scares people about swimming. They start panicking and then they hold their breath. So when it comes to breathing, the thing I would say is don't hold your breath. Always breathe out. I don't know if you've ever taken swimming, scuba diving. Maybe if you're listening in, that's something maybe eventually you want to do. That's one of the things they first tell you to do, is don't hold your breath. A lot of people, when they get panicky or stressed, that's what they do, is hold their breath. You feel a lot better when you exhale, and you feel better. So do that. I call it bubble breathing. So when you're swimming, or when you're first starting, you don't have to just start and swim across the pool. You can certainly hold on to the side and bubble breathe, is what I like to call it, where you're just breathing, putting your face in the water, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. When you're ready to inhale, then you're going to lift your head, or rotate really, to breathe, and then breathe in. That is probably one of the most common mistakes I see, is people wait to breathe in and out when their head is out of the water, but that doesn't give them enough time, and then they panic, and then they have to stop. So make sure you're breathing out in the water, and then when you're ready to breathe, you rotate to the side, and then you breathe in. So you're not trying to breathe in and out when you're on your side. You're breathing out in the water, then you're rotating. Your mouth is, over the water, and then you're able to get some breath there. Don't be afraid to have a little water in your mouth. Not that you want to be drinking that a lot, but you kind of get used to breathing over the water a little bit. You are going to be rotating to breathe. That's one of the things I find people do commonly, is they swim flat. They're not rotating to breathe. So that's one of the things you'll see in that video I alluded to. Also, people tend to pedal kick. If you are coming from a cycling background or a running background, I see pedal kicking as a very common problem. And so if you tend to get out of breath really quickly when you're swimming, it's most likely that you're pedal kicking, or you over kick. Your kick should be coming from your hip. Like if you were to wind up and kick a soccer ball, you would kick it. You wouldn't just bend your knee and then flick it. You would actually use your core muscles and then take it from your hip and really wind up and finish off with your knee bend, a slight knee bend. That's how swimming is. You want it to, you're going to swim with pretty straight leg, and then you're going to really take that movement from the hip more than the knee. So kind of keep check of that. If you get out of breath really quick, you may consider using a pool buoy between your legs. That's the little, it's kind of a spongy thing that you can float, you put between your legs. If you take a swim lesson, they'll teach you how to use those, but take your legs out of it, no kicking, and then see what happens. And that often is really good, because then you can work on the pull and really pulling effectively and not having to worry about being out of breath. So think about that. One of the other things you need to consider is, do what you think a freestyle looks like, and then start cleaning it up. When you swim, you want to not be looking at the other side of the pool. I see that common, but you want to look down to the bottom of the pool. You want to be looking at that line on the bottom of the pool. And you'll see, don't have to worry about running into the side of the pool, because at the end of that line, you'll see this little like T, and you'll know I'm close to the end of the pool at that point. So you definitely want to watch for that. You don't want to hit the end of the pool, but there are those signs. Even if you're doing the backstroke, a lot of pools have what's called flags above you. So you can see when you cross that flag line that you're pretty close to the edge of the pool. Usually you can count, 3, and then you're there, or whatever it is for you. So head down, looking at the bottom. Don't, have your eyes looking up, because when you look up, your hips go down, so you don't want that. Another thing is, don't swim flat. You want to rotate at the hips, and then you're on your side, so when you breathe, your head isn't coming way up out of the water. You're just getting your mouth rotated to breathe over the water. That's really helpful. And then not bending your knees. You're not pedal kicking, what I like to call pedal kicking. You're keeping your knees straighter. They're not completely stiff. They have a slight bend to them, like you're flicking the water off your foot. But you want to have that movement coming more from your hips. So certainly try that. And then another consideration is when you're pulling your arm, I think we tend to want to take the path of least resistance, which means we drop our elbow. That's not what we want to do. When we swim, we want to pull as much water as we can. So one of the ways that you do that is to have a strong forearm that's lean, your fingertips are directly down, your wrist is straight, your elbow is high, and you're pushing that water behind you. So notice if you're trying to really pull your hand through easily, or you want it to be harder, you want to pull water. So making sure those fingertips are down. And then when you breathe, sometimes we have a tendency to drop our elbow down and our hand goes up and we sweep. And then we slip a lot of water that way. Making sure that fingertip stays pointing down and the elbow is high when we take a breath. When we rotate, take a breath, we're going to shift our arm. Making sure that it's going to be perpendicular to the ground, right? It's fingertips down, and then it's going to be parallel to the back wall. And that's something to consider when you're doing that freestyle stroke. Yeah, so there are some things there, and hopefully that'll get you started. I highly, highly suggest you getting involved with a master swim program. They often have coaches that can give you a lot of feedback. Or if you're in my area, certainly individualized coaching is ideal, because everybody comes with different concerns or experience, and that it really helps to have somebody giving you feedback as you're swimming to see if you can make improvements. So technique is what's going to improve you. Fitness helps a lot, but most likely it has to do with you just getting a good technique down. And that takes work, and it takes some feedback to get that. Some specific strength training can help with that, but you can learn that from a coach. So highly suggest that. Reach out to me if you're interested. I can always send you clips. I do work with people from out of town, and I can give you feedback from video. So certainly message me there. But I'd love to see you in the water, getting it done. And I know water and that kind of thing is often what scares people when they first start. So don't let it stop you. You can learn, go out, learn, ask questions. find people to go with and ask them lots of questions. You'll see that they're going to have their opinions about things, but you have to ultimately decide what works well for you. And just getting to the pool and getting started is the first step. So hopefully this gives you some pool etiquette, some things to think about, and tips for lap swimming. Until next time, live well. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. Be sure and check the show notes for resources or links that we mentioned in the show. You can also find them on my website at blonderunner.com. BLONDERUNNER.com. You can also find me on Instagram at The Blonde Runner with an E and Coach Lora Erickson, and that's Lora. Before you forget, I hope that you will follow this podcast and like it so you don't miss an episode. Also, it really helps if you leave a review so other people can find it, and share it with your friends. Until next time, live well.